felt that it was very, very important before moving on to the spheres to conclude our present discussion of Nefesh Neshama Chayechida, which of course we're going to continue with there's much more to do on that, but just with the introduction to the Chelkei HaNefesh, the different parts of the soul, to talk about the Nekuda of Yichidish HaNefesh, which is Mesirus HaNefesh. Mesirus HaNefesh that we're seeing Befrat is Manenu B'Yameinu. In our times, where there are Jews who are sacrificing their lives, L'Manenu, L'man Klal Yisrael, without really knowing why. And to understand that tofa'ah of how that works and where that comes from, we began to learn this last week. This maimer, thank you so much. This maimer from Rav Zasson, that was from a shiur that he gave after the beginning of the Milchama. So we're on page Lamed Hey. I did give out physical. I think last week I gave papers, and the whole thing should be on the phone. Yeah, and you could print it. No, that's not. That's it. Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to get it. David could tell you how to get it. I think it's you printed it out from.
I printed it. I sent it on the chat. The whole PDF.
Oh, so good. Okay. So page 35. Page 35. The middle of the page. So he's doing a little chazar here. So we'll learn it inside. What's the avoid of Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and why the Shema is the way that the soldiers would enter into Milchama, into the war. Achdus Hashem, Hamun Pnimiyus Shalar Anachayim. This oneness of Hashem, that everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the Amun Pnimiyus upon which all of our lives, everything is built. There is nothing other than Hashem. And first and foremost, it means that myself and my entire life, it's not outside the song of Elokus, the song of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that every single Jew is part of that nigun, is part of that shiur of Elokus, of Hashem, Elokeinu Hashem Echad, of Einod Milvado. Every single Jew. Kol atzmoisai v'kol yeshusai v'kol achaim sheli. My very existence, my entire life, hima gilui shelo yisbarach. Whether I was aware of it until now, or I'm just beginning to understand, everything in my life is, my whole purpose in life is only gilui Hashem, is to reveal Elokus in the world. Blizeh, or baladezeh, ein li shum hashmos. Therefore, I have no purpose to living. There's no reason for my existence. If not HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's no reason for my existence. Ein shtei yeshus b'olam. There are no two separate domains or separate realities. Ein shtei mitzilios b'olam. Kol ha'chaim, v'kol ha'or, v'chol ha'omek. All life, all light, all depth, all mesika sweetness. Kol ma sheyesh bo tam shel chaim. Anything that has a taste of true life, fulfillment of life, filled with life, zerak, it's only or Hashem. There is no other source of life, and there's no other way for a person to truly be alive and to feel alive. Kol ha-klipas of olam, all of the klipas of the world, that are trying to give the impression and trying to offer an alternative source of life and another reason for living and another purpose to living. She'eino avodas Hashem, novos l'maasim avodah zarah. It comes from avodah zarah, and that's the shorish of Amalek and avodah zarah. Heim be'etzem sigim shel avodah zarah. Like I've mentioned many times, like the Alter Rebbe says in many places, other tzaddikim, that what used to be sun worship is now the worship of money. I mean, when a person sees that his entire purpose in life is to gain more and more wealth, and his entire existence is focused on making more money, so again, not a person who works he has to work, but where a person, where that becomes the ideal of a person's life and the tachlis of a person's life, that's the modern day permutation of Avodas Hashem. Because in ancient times, people believed that the sun was the source of life. They were farmers, whatever, and the sun was they saw the sun as being the source of life. So they worshipped the sun, and the present day modern manifestation of that Avodah Zarah is Mammon, is Taivas Mammon. And so it is with all of the different Avodah Zarahs. It's where a person sees that there's something, he believes that there's a makar to his life, and it's not a Kodesh Baruch Hu, it's something else. That's called Avodah Zarah. Hashem gave us the choice to feel as if we're being sustained and we're being enlivened through something else. And therefore, the Swarm tells us that Amalek, which is the shorish of this Asher Korcha, is a lashon of Ikul, Ayin, Yud, Kuf, Vav, Lamed, which means Mi'ukal, something which is crooked, something which is corrupted, something which is not straight, something which is Mi'ukul Kal, is a lashon of Amalek. Ma'amin Mesirus HaNefesh. So now what is Mesirus Nefesh? What is the meaning of giving up one's life? And whenever we say Kriya Shema, as we learned last week, one should try to enter to that place, at least in one's mind and one's thoughts, and to try to reach a place of Emunah that I'm ready, if need be, I'm ready, and I'm ready to give up my life, because there is no life outside of Hashem. So what happens with Mesirus Nefesh? What takes place with the Mesirus Nefesh? So the Swarm tells us, brought down in many places, in the Shlach Kodesh, in the Galamukas, many Swarm tell us that they have a Messiah somehow, whatever that means, that Tzaddikim have revealed that when a person dies, like Hashem, he doesn't feel any physical pain. He doesn't feel any pain. Shas Maisi, doesn't feel. At the moment of death, there isn't any pain. Why? What does that mean? We're going to come to that a little bit later on. What is that from? That he doesn't feel any pain. So, Maimin Mesirus HaNefesh, when a person is in a place of Mesirus Nefesh, Chosef es ha'emes ha'gemur. What happens at the moment of Mesirus Nefesh is that Chosef, like Chasav Zerah Kodshach, means it pierces through. The Mesirus Nefesh pierces through to the truth, to the absolute truth. Es ha'emes ha'gemur. She'anu chelik mimenu. Each and every Jew is a chelik of that absolute truth. U'memela hu ha'chaim shalanu. And it's the life of a person. Therefore, Rega Mesirus HaNefesh, that moment of Mesirus Nefesh, Mochek is called HaKatnus. It erases, it eliminates all katnus, all smallness. I'm not alive because of football, because of money, because of physical pleasures, because of eating. I'm not alive because of all those other, the Shemesh, the Reach, the Kechavim, Chol Tzva Shamayim. I'm not alive because of all those other things. I'm alive not because of any of this. That's all katnus. And therefore the person feels at the moment of Mesirus Nefesh complete and total distance from all sins and anything that's against the Kodesh Baruch Hu causes a distance from Hashem. And Mimela, what we're going to talk about much more, he talks about much more later on, is that even people who survived and witnessed Mesirus Nefesh, Leman Hashem and Leman Yisrael and so on, they begin to feel the silliness of the katnus of their lives. There's this sense of something much, much bigger, much greater that they just haven't been paying attention to. Because when the neshama breaks through all of the concealment, we take of Mesirus HaNefesh because of the power of Mesirus HaNefesh, which means coming into contact with that which is called Yechidah Nefesh, that part of ourselves that's Yechidah Nefesh. As I misbarer mahi be'emes rodza. Then, in that moment, it becomes clear. In a second, it becomes clear what the neshama wants. The neshama is able to be heard, loud and clear. Throughout one's entire life, the guf is noisy. The guf is making all of the noise, and the neshama can't be heard. Mesirus Nefesh, there's this silence of the neshama being able to be heard, and the guf is quiet. Umizbar shekol haritzonos haridudim, and then it becomes clear that all of the person's shallow desires, all of his shallow and silly interests, einam be'emes mashal the mevakesh. It's not really what he wants in life. It's not really what he's seeking. For a few, rak machmas chulshas so far as neshama. And the only reason that he spent his life talking about the Super Bowl or something, or food, or money, or whatever else the katnus was, is because the neshama was just drowned out by the noise, and the neshama was not being heard. But Mesirus Nefesh blows away all those mechitzas, and then the neshama is able to be heard. Mesirus Nefesh LaHashem Yisborach Hi Hanakuda Helyona B'Yosef. That's why we see that tzaddikim, the Beis Yosef, Rabbi Kiva, but many tzaddikim, they told us that their whole lives they were longing to be able to die al Kiddush Hashem. They wanted to be Moshe Nefesh. I mean, every moment they were Moshe Nefesh to give up this world and to give up all the needs of the body. But the ultimate Mesirus Nefesh is giving up one's life. And the tzaddikim were longing for that opportunity. And the Kuda Halyonah is because the Mesirus Nefesh and the Kuda Halyonah B'Yosef, Pnimiyus B'Yosef, it's the highest and deepest point. B'chol HaChaim Shalom, in a person's life. Kol Ma Shenachnu, Kol Atzmeinu, our entire existence. Kol Machshavei Seinu and thoughts. Kol Ma'aseinu, the Kol Dibur, every word. Kol HaShe'ifa Shalom, anything the person longs for. Kol HaRitzonos Shalom, all of our Ritzonos. And the Neshama HaPnimiyus Shemechayes Kol Zeh. The Neshama HaPnimiyus, which is really the source of all of that. Zu Oisat Chusha Pnimiyus V'Amuka, is this very deep feeling. Limsos L'Hashem Yisborach gives us this tremendous need and readiness to give up, even to give up one's life. V'chol yom v'yom, every single day. From these words that we say every day. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Which means that Hashem is everything. It doesn't mean there's only one God as opposed to 2, 3, 4. It means Hashem is it. That's it. That's the tachlis. From these words, Oreg Achaim, there flows the life Shel Am Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Me'oisa achdus elyon v'ne'elemes. From this achdus, this oneness of Hashem that we don't really understand. It's hidden, but it becomes clear that this world is not it. On the choitzim as kol ma'aseinu machshavos, we're able to carve through, to carve out all of our ma'asim, all of our machshavos. And the neshama azu shel parshas Shema, this neshama that is revealed through Kriyas Shema, that we come into contact with through Kriyas Shema, shel achdus Hashem, barli de bitui et stanu davkai de bitui shemesirus nefesh Hashem Yisborach. Those are the words that we say, but the actual carrying out of those words, which is the way the Jews would, will die on Kiddush Hashem, would be saying Shema Yisrael. It was an instinctive cry of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. I was just discussing this with somebody at the beginning of the Milchama. We were talking, and there was a very, very popular Israeli series that was called Fauda. I don't know if you heard of it. It seems it was a very, very big thing. I had some. It was all about the. I don't know. It was a Mossad or.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know, but secret.
It's the group that hides, that is in. They speak Arabic. They look Arabic.
Yeah, those the spies, the chashav that they're working with.
The worst of the worst.
Right. They're going into all the worst places. So that there was a very popular show. I don't know if it's still on now, but it sounds.
I think it's still. I don't watch. It's too intense.
So
I see the real thing.
Yeah. In the real estate business.
No.
Oh, I thought that's.
Yeah, that's hand to hand.
Oh, that's what I thought you were talking.
That's hand to hand.
So someone told me that this is why probably it's not. It sounded like it was the last one, but they have a way of continuing. Because if people watch it, they'll make it Chesed Mesim or something. Because apparently in the last episode, this person was telling me the very biggest spoilers that all of these soldiers were, or these secret agents, these Israeli secret agents. It was very real to life. Apparently, they were consulting with all Mevinim, and some of them were actually probably they were Israelis. They were soldiers. They say Hebrew. I'm sure they all served in the army. These guys. So girls, what?
One of them was in Gaza.
Was actually in Gaza.
Yeah, he got injured.
I think he got killed.
No,
Just injured.
So yeah, that's Israeli. They live with these things, so they understand it. So it's not just Hollywood.
Do a dim. It's
so
like do a dim or something.
Devon.
What?
Devon.
Yeah.
So the last episode when it didn't work out. They were on a mission, and it failed, and that whole chevra that they were working together the whole time for a long time. That whole chevra, they were ambushed and they were killed. This is what he told me, and they were lying there. They were injured. They were shot by the Arabs, the terrorists, and they were lying there, and they held each other's hands. And this whole chevra, no shaykhis to anything with Yiddishkeit the whole time. That's it in the show, and they all called out Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That they put that on the show. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That was the last words that came out from these soldiers. And it's not a movie. This is Metzius. I don't want to say the words Ma'aseh B'chol Yom because it hurts too much to say. This is Ma'aseh B'chol Yom, but it is Ma'aseh B'chol Yom. That Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And that's something which, even though this soldier, this person, this agent, might not have said those words since he was a bar mitzvah, since he was a little kid and his grandfather was still alive and would say with him Shema Yisrael. So, but at that moment of Mesius Nefesh, that's the whole Metzius, is Hashem Echad. There's no other Metzius, Hashem Echad. So we see this, Ein Bli Benu El Echad, of course, when Yaakov left the world. This is the last thing that he left to his children, that he left to us. Gemara Shebishah Shepagash Yaakov. First, we know that when Yaakov met Yosef at Tzaddik, creation. So Yosef Tzaddik is crying, and Yaakov is saying creation. And also, when it came time for Yaakov to die, Bo Bonav Svivo, his children came around him, the Korah Shema, and they said Shema. Yaakov Anoi Kenegna Baruch Shem Kivod Machus Elam Ve'ed. Histalkuso She Yaakov Haya B'Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Shem Echad. So Yaakov was the first person who we see which is the beginning of Am Yisrael, who left the world with the words Shema Yisrael. Hashem Echad Achdus Hashem Hi Agarin HaPnimi HaBoer BeNishmas Yisrael. And this Hashem Echad is the seed, the inner essence of a Jew that's burning in Nishmas Yisrael. And that is the source of the koach of a Jew to be Moshe Nefesh. Like Rabbi Akiva said his whole life, he was longing to be able to fulfill this, and now he has the time when he's able to do it. When he was killed like Kiddush Hashem, and Rabbi Akiva's neshama left with the word Echad. The Medrash says, Yaakov he summoned his sons. Yaakov wanted to show his sons to reveal when Mashiach is going to come. He wanted to reveal the end of time. But the Shechina left, and he wasn't able to see. Then Yaakov got worried. Why is it that the Shechina, he lost his vision? He couldn't see the end of time. So he was nervous. Maybe there's a psul b'mitasi. Maybe one of my kids is not going in the right way. K'avram Avi Abba, like my grandfather Avram, Shiyatzim and Yishmael, who had Yishmael. It was a tremendous, terrible kilkel in Am Yisrael, in the building of Am Yisrael. Uchi Yitzchak Abba, my father Yitzchak, Shiyatzim and Esav, my brother Esav. So he was worried that maybe the boys all looked like they were B'nai Torah, but they weren't. Maybe something was wrong. Maybe there was a kilkel. Maybe the emunah was not complete. Amrulo. So together the brothers, the Shvatim said, Shema Yisrael, which means two things. It means Shema Yisrael means Yisrael is Yaakov. Listen, our father, Shema Yisrael, Yisrael Sabbath, Chazal say, and also Hashem. It means the Jewish people, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, for all future times. And they said to him, Kishem she'ein b'libcha ela echad, kach ein b'libenu ela echad. The same way that in your heart all that there is one God, so too in our hearts all there is ein b'libenu ela echad. Miyad Pasach, when he heard that Yaakov, he said, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchus Le'olam Vaed, which means that may this truth of Hashem's oneness, of everything being Hashem, may it be revealed, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchus in this world. Malchus Le'olam Vaed, it should be revealed in this world. Which is called Yichud Ilah. For those who love Chassidus, there's Yichud Ilah, there's Yichud Tatar. The higher Yichud, that everything is Elokus, and there is no world, and the Tachlis, which is Dir B'Tachtainim Yichud Tatar, which is Baruch Shem K'mochus U'Aved, which is to reveal Hashem's Malchus in this physical world. Malchus in this physical world. There was a Maisa with the I'm not going to say this, it's a long Maisa, but the Kuda was that there were two of the greatest Chabad Hasidim who ever lived, I'm sure many of you know, was Rabbi Hillel Paritcher, and Rabbi Isaac Hameler. So the two biggest Chabad Hasidim. And it was known that the difference between the both of them were very, very great, holy Olam Tzadikim, but the Iker Inyan of Rabbi Hillel was the Avodah of Chassidus, the Avodah, and the Iker of Rabbi Isaac was the Muskalos of Chassidus, the intellect of Chassidus. Even though they were both great in both areas, but the Iker was like this. So without telling all the Pratim, I'll tell you a different time, but without all the Pratim, there was the Rebbe Maharash was the son of the Tzemach Tzedek, and he wanted to understand the difference between these two tzaddikim, because his father, the Tzemach Tzedek, had made a certain comment that one is Yichud Elah and the other is Yichud Tatar. Well, there's one is Shema Yisrael and the other one is Baruch Shem Kavod. The son of the Tzemach Tzedek, Rebbe Maharash, wanted to understand this more and to know who what. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, "Okay, I'll tell you. I'm going to learn a mimer. You can come to the I'll say over a mimer in Chassidus, and you can come. And Reb Hillel, and others, my sons, Reb Marsh and other sons, and the two tzaddikim, Reb Hillel and Reb Isaac, will also come to. Which oftentimes those two tzaddikim were invited to these very exclusive mamar, and to come. So they all came into this private mimer, and the Tzemach said some kind of mimer, I don't know which one, I think it's brought down, I just don't remember right now, but he said over a mimer Chassidus, and sure, it was finished, and then what the Chassidim would do always after a mimer was they would chazer it, right? They would review it, and the Rebbe Maharash saw that he went to see how Reb Hillel was chazering and how Reb Isaac was chazering. He went to peek in. And when he went in to see Reb Isaac, he saw that Reb Isaac's head was back, his eyes were white, you couldn't see his pupils, and he was in a trance, with his head back and his mouth open like this, and he was in that mimer. He was chazering a mimer. And then he went into the other place to see where Reb Hillel was. And when he came in, Reb Hillel had his head down between his knees, and he was like this, and he was staring at the ground. And this is the two things. So the Rebbe Maharash went to his father, and the Tzemach Tzedek said, "No, did you see what's the difference between Rabbi Isaac and Rabbi?" So he said that Rabbi Isaac is Yichud Elah, Shema Yisrael. There's no world. He left the world. He said, but the Indian of Reb Hillel is Baruch Shem Kavod, which is Yichud Tatar, and therefore his eyes were upon the earth. How could I bring this or of the Tzemach Tzedek's Maimer? How do I integrate that into this world, into my life, into reality? That Rabbi Isaac was, I'm out of here. He was gone. He disappeared. He just disappeared into life beyond this life. And that's even in the physical way that they were chazering the Maimer. There was one that was, and the other was Yichud Elah and Yichud Tatar. So that's Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus. So this is what happened before Yaakov. This is how Yaakov left the world. Mishpat zeh kishem she'ein belibcha. It's not belivavcha, it's belibcha. Kishem she'ein belibcha el echad. Kach ein belibenu el echad. When the Shvatim told him, the same way that in your heart there's only one, so too in our heart there's only one. Mahadheid, that conversation between Yaakov and the Shvatim, the last moment of Yaakov's life, is echoing in Nishmos Yisrael, in the neshamas of the Jewish people, me'oz mikedem, since then. It's there, that sound, those words, that truth is echoing in the heart, deep in the place of Yechida, in every single Jew. Because of Yaakov Avinu, Shenot Azais Etzel Shvatim, he drove this deep into the Shvatim, Umehem Ova Adova B'Yerusha, and it's been passed along as our Yerusha. Al Kol Mishum Mizer Yisrael. Kol Mishum Mizer Yisrael makes no difference with tattoos, without tattoos, with an earring, without an earring, with a shtreimel, without a yarmulke. It makes no difference. It's there. Kol Mishum Mizer Yisrael. L'famim ein b'li yibeinu ele echad gondus ubelev. Sometimes this truth, this mitzias of ein b'li yibeinu ele echad is hidden deep in the heart. V'nekudas HaKodesh Pnimiyus ve'enu mazgala b'chutz. A person goes his entire life, and it's not mazgala b'chutz. I've mentioned a number of times over the years something my father told me about a Jew that he knew from his hometown, who had an Indian. My father said he had an Indian to sit on the steps of the big shul on Shabbos, smoking a cigarette. So you could imagine what that was in those years. He sat on the steps of the big shul. Everybody that passed by would either turn away or the kanoim would spit, and he would sit on the steps of the big shul with a cigarette. This was his thing. My father remembered him. He was like in the town. He said that this person's parents moved to a different city. There was such a busha. They moved to a different city. That's what he sat on. He sat on the steps. My father said he was a bulvan, very strong, mechutzef, and none of the frum kids had anything to do with him. But he sat on them. My father said he told this to me over the years a number of times. If he would hear me say something bad, a negative of my sister about somebody, my father would sometimes remind us. He said he knew the seed's name. His name was Hershel. So my father said that this Yid, this Michal Shabbos, died in my arms in Matas. And the way that he died was a shrai from Shema Yisrael that you could hear from one end of the camp to the other end of the camp. That's how he died. A Shema Yisrael. So before you open up your mouth, my father said about a Jew, you have to know that there was a guy, Hershel or Hershel, whatever, that sat on the steps smoking on Shabbos. A cigarette. And it's not like sitting on the steps someplace and nowadays smoking a cigarette. The whole place they were all from, and he was making a point. But it was just very, very hidden in him. It was very hidden. Ein mazgal b'chutz. Ein mazgal b'chutz, and there are people that they leave this world and it doesn't come out at all. Achen hachutz olu lahaster rabbis es anakuda hazu. The noise outside can really hide that nakuda. There's a lot of noise outside. Ach belev hareshi ba'eres ba'ayis. But it doesn't stop burning. That ner tamid is burning inside a Jew. And at different times, at different moments, not necessarily when the person dies, especially when there's a Mesirus Nefesh, not just a regular death, but it's Mesirus Nefesh, but it could be other thing and something else happens. There are Gam Mesiyamim, Paretzes Yachutza, where it explodes, comes out. The Sheitefes Bar is called Rev De'achaim, and it washes over with light, all the different layers of life. Harigoyim halalu hem harigoyim shel Mesirus Nefesh. Those are moments of Mesirus Nefesh. Mesirus Nefesh chosefes es shorish haneshama. When a person sacrifices for the sake of Hashem, or for the sake of Am Yisrael, when a person gives up and is ready to even ad kedei kach, to die, is ready to give up, or ready to give up all of his wealth, or ready to give up, God forbid, one of his children. Something happens when he's for being a Jew, or for saving Jews. That's chosefes shorish haneshama. That breaks through to the root of the soul. Lachein hi gam mevia la'achdus amuka b'am Yisrael. So listen to this. Therefore, it also brings to a tremendous sense of unity between Jews. That's exactly what's happening now. Whenever there's a time of Mesirus Nefesh, and Jews dying, al Kiddush Hashem, Jews dying to help other Jews, so then it brings a tremendous and tremendous achdus to the Jewish people. Not just because people feel bad, or people are proud, or people are grateful to these heroic, chavre. Not just because of that. It's because there's a hisgalus of yichidah shemanefesh, and it fills it has a way of reaching Am Yisrael. It has a way of affecting and influencing, and it brings a tremendous achdus, because the external falls away. All the klippas fall away, and there's a hisgalus of nishmas Yisrael. And even when others are watching that, and they see that, and everybody wants to hear stories of to know what's going on, and they hear another story of what's happening, so then it's more a tremendous sense of achdus. Not just because there's a common enemy, it's something which is much deeper, it's very different than here, lahavdal elf alfa havdalas, billion havdalas. I was reading an article, somebody from the shul gave me an article about how, this thing in Ukraine is already schlepping out for a long time. So it must be ready almost 2 years or a year, something like that. So it's a long time schlepping out in Ukraine. The Russians are terrible big with showing what they're doing over there, and they're making a whole shchita, and Ukrainians are fighting back. But what it said in the article is that things are starting to turn in a very bad direction for the Ukrainians, because they're losing the cheshik. They're very demoralized, and they're losing the cheshik to fight, and they're having trouble getting soldiers. It's a whole hastaponim over there. So when I was reading that, he gave me to read. So I was thinking how my Klal Yisrael's kasha yano is like ken yiv v'chen yiv. It's just the opposite. The bigger the patch, the more difficult challenges, the more hisgalus there's of nishmas Yisrael. It's just the opposite. When there wasn't any war for the past couple of years, so there was a whole thing going on. The soldiers are angry. The liberal, the more left, the left wing, they're not going to enlist. They're not going to show up. These were all the diburim before Shmei Atzeres, right? But the second the Milchama starts, and it doesn't get weaker; it gets stronger. The Mesius Nefesh of the Chevra is strengthening the feeling of conviction, of emunah, of achdus. Everything's getting stronger and stronger. That's only a midas Yisrael, because his galus of the neshama it's not a matter of nationalism. It's nationalism. It's galus of nishmas Yisrael, Mesius Nefesh. Jews are giving their lives for other Jews, and Jews are giving their lives to see to it that Am Yisrael will continue. So that avira of Mesius Nefesh has a tremendous power over the entire nation, the Jews everywhere. It brings a tremendous achdus. Yikol hapirudim, because all of the separation, all of the divisions, all of the fighting, it's only when Jews are just hanging around in a place of chitzonius, but they're not connected to their neshama. In the world of chitzonius, everything's fighting and arguing. They're not talking to each other because he's a Democrat, this one's a Republican. The two Jews are not talking to each other. This one voted for Biden, this one voted for Trump. They can't talk. This one votes for Netanyahu, and this one votes for Lapid or something. So then no one's talking. These families don't talk to each other. It's all shtuyot. That's not guy. It's all chitzonius. So when they're caught up in the chitzonius, so then you have all kinds of pirudim. Because in the world of the guf, no two people look the same. The world of the guf is all about chilukim. No two people think the same. No two people look the same. So everything about chitzonius is differences, machlokes. That's all chitzonius. That's all chitzonius. But the second you come into contact with the neshama, and you go to the place of Pnimiyus, then all the chitzonius is nothing. So it doesn't make a difference if he's religious, not religious. It doesn't make a difference if he's a Sfadi, or this or that. All the silly chilukim, they don't make a difference. They don't mean anything. Those things only make a difference if you're Aish and chitzonius. not when you're in a place of Pnimiyus. Ach kishodam mischaber l'shorish haneshama. But when you are mischaber to the shorish of the neshama, on the mischaber l'shorish echad, then you get to the place of Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And in the world of Echad, there is no difference between this kind of hat or that kind of yarmulke, or this kind of politics or that kind of politics. It's Echad. That's the neshama achas shel kulam. And in that place of Echad, Knesset Yisrael is one. It's Nishmas Yisrael. Am Yisrael is one. Messias of Am Yisrael. And it's all one. It's Echad. Or HaShechina, the light of the Shechina. Shkol Echad Mitanu, who shviv v'nitzayis imenu, and each Jew, even though we occupy separate bodies, but each Jew is a spark of that, as an nitzayis of that Messias of the Shechina in this world of Knesset Yisrael. It's a Shemayim. We're not divided according to where you were born or whether you davened the Sechasm as a Svar, the place where you come. Mesirus HaNefesh, HaSefiros is Shaar Hagan. There's nothing more powerful than Mesirus HaNefesh to break through to that shorish, to that place. It's Nishmas Klal Yisrael. Me'achdus u'ma'achedes oisan ba'achdus gemur, and it brings this to tremendous achdus. Now all this is, of course, based upon the 18th parak in Tanya, which everybody really needs to learn the whole Tanya, but especially these days to learn those prakim Yuches, Yutes, and Chaf in Tanya. While Tanya Medar Bolzeh, when the Tanya wants to explain that, to prove that B'kol Echad Yisrael, that in every single Jew, Ba'eres Nefesh Elokis Al Yona Uro, there burns this Nefesh Elokis. Umaru Umatzig is a Davke Derech Inyan Shem Mesirus Nefesh. So that you remember that the Baal Tanya sets this up, this whole limud of there being inside each and every Jew a Nefesh Elokis. He sets this up within the framework of Mesirus Nefesh. Shnavas Mehayichida, and the Baal Tanya explains that it comes from this Nakuda of the soul that's called Yichida. But now it's not only a Yichida of each individual Jew, there's a Yichida of the Jewish people. That's at a time of Milchama, or a time of Gzeira against the Jewish people, like by Purim, Yeshnai Amech and Mefuzim Mefar, the whole Milchama, that whole time of Purim was to come back from a place of being Mefuzim Mefar. Now it's Erev Purim, we were all divided and dispersed. We were busy having sushi at HaSefiros' party. That's what that was about, the whole Mishnah. And Shenenu Suda. So it was such a big deal that they were eating it by Suda. Everything was kosher. We spoke about that. It says Kirsani Shvish. Everything had a hechsher. And if you Dafka wanted a Yakish hechsher, a Chsidish hechsher, whatever you wanted, it's Kirsani Shvish. Whatever you wanted, you had kosher food at HaSefiros' party. You had kosher food. So what's the problem? And for that, everybody should die because of that. So that was only a very extreme Shiur picture of a period that was reaching to the very core of who they were at that time, because they were focused on partying, on Gashmias. The whole Messias was a Messias of Adam Hazeh. And when your whole Messias is a world of Guf, then Haman was right. The Gemara says that Haman said it's very strong lashon hara. It was very true when he said Yeshnai Am Echad. Chazal interpreted to mean Yeshnai Am Echad. Haman, no, he said Yeshnai Am Echad. In other words, there is this one unique people in the world, Yisrael, and this one unique people. Be'emes, Haman understood Echad. Yeshnai Am Echad. He understood. He was the minister of Jewish affairs. He was from the Eichmann's El Zaidi, and he knew this, that Yesh no Am Echad, that there's no Am Echad. There's no other people like that. There's no Am Echad. But you know how come I'm going to get them? You know where I'm going to get them? Because they're Mefuzah Mefarid Ben Ha'am. Mefuzah Mefarid Ben Ha'am. They're not in that place. So he thought he's going to destroy us, but what he did was just the opposite. Because he was able to orchestrate a whole Gzeira, and Am Yisrael suddenly in a minute, all of Am Yisrael was standing around Yaakov in his bed saying Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and that was the end of Haman. Because then he brought through him the Mahafay Chuvas became Davka back to the reality of Yeshno Am Echad. It's true. Yeshno Am Echad. And every Purim, you can feel a little bit like this. That's why they needed one of the reasons of Tachbaisis, of getting dressed up on Purim, because getting dressed up means that all the things that you see on the outside is not Bamasuyo. This guy's dressed up. This one's dressed up like this. This one's dressed up like that. It only means it's a secondary disguise. Our actual physical goof is one disguise, and then you get another disguise on Purim. You put on a costume. But the point of the costume is to say that the emphasis is that whether a Jew looks like he's Nar Hama or a Jew looks like he's a Baruch Mordechai, in Nishmas Yisrael and in the Kud of who he is, it's all this stuff is all an outfit. It's all a costume. It's not who he is. It's a costume. It's a disguise. So Haman, that was the last thing in the world that Haman wanted, because that was his downfall. The whole thing that Haman, if he would have let it go, Chalila, it wouldn't have happened, because I shouldn't have wanted to happen. He would let it to continue, and he wouldn't have done anything. He would have just let the Jews continue going into their parties, into the movies, into wherever they were going. So then it would have Chalila been terrible. But Haman Davka was more this Muhammad and this Gzeira, and through the Gzeira, Shema Yisrael Shem HaKadosh Shem Echad, that all the party goes we're in a place of Kriyashma, and then the next thing, there's the Haman is hanging. That was the end of it. And then there was no Indian anymore for a period. And that's why the whole Avaida of Purim is, one is Ishtar Re'ehu, in other words, for Jews to be good to each other, to take away all the period between Jews. And you feel that on Purim, because on Purim, let's say, are freilich together. It doesn't make a difference what, who, where. And that's the need of drinking. It takes away all those. In the Odom Agashim, it takes away all of the divisions between this one and that one. There's no chilik between this person and that person. It's not Le'odah. Because in that mitzvah is about Le'odah, which is we're talking about on Sunday, was the Shaar Hagan in Kedusha, in the place of Shaar Hagan, which is Yechidish of the Nefesh. There's no separation between one Jew and another Jew. Everybody's there. Says Mishlach Matan, it's Mishlach Man is Yisrael, Matan said Yoinim. This Purim, Mishpach, everybody together, all Jews, and that's Davka, what Haman himself. That's the V'nahafeichel. That he himself brought that about, and that's what they're doing now. The Rishayim did this now, October 7th. The Hamas did the same thing. They did the same thing. Instead of letting Jews continue fighting like they were doing until then, and it reached the worst place on Yom Kippur when there were Jews who were throwing things at Jews that were davening in Tel Aviv. The Hamas didn't leave it like that. If they would have left like that, they didn't leave it like that. So there was all Hashgacha Prot. So Hamas goes in. How they got in? It's hard to believe that they just walked in like that. They got in there. They made a whole pogrom, and then from that pogrom, from that whole pogrom came out what? The HaSefiros of Shema Yisrael Shem HaKadosh Shem Echad, and then this is it. We're going to finish them all off. It's be Purim, finished. But that's how it goes. It's said that the way to bring us, it'd be much easier if we all try to get along and learn Zohar Kodesh. It'd just be so much nicer than what's going on. But we're an Akshay Arif like that too. Sometimes, unless we get a patch, we don't remember. But that's exactly what the Rishonim are trying to avoid. That's exactly what they brought. Okay, we'll try to finish the Rambam next time. Next week is, I think, the dinner. So, Tuesday, I think. I don't remember.
The windows are nice, so I missed it. The guys actually showed us.